What was it like seeing T-Mac break the record on Saturday?
I was extremely happy. It was satisfying for sure. Something that is a goal that we set earlier this year when I first got here. You don't make a lot of promises as a coach, but that was one that I promised them that we'd get done, regardless of, record and whatever else is going on. But, I told him that we were going to push him to get him in a spot where he can break the record because he's deserving to break it. So I was very happy.
And then now that you've been able to work with him for a year, what stands out to you about just the kind of receiver that he is?
He's it's funny, we talk about being a pro's pro, right? He loves this game. You can see the way he goes about it every day at practice. He really wants to be the best version of himself. He sets his goals high. He's very ambitious, and I think he works at it. And that's something that's deserving to be rewarded. And I'm glad that he's reaching his goals in college football. And he's just a great player.
For Bobby, it seems like T-Mac's kind of micro-analyzed. Like you'll hear the announcers during the game talk about, oh, he didn't run this route at full speed. You'll see people on social media analyzing his body language. Still getting questions even this week. Is he going to opt out? Is he not going to play this game? Why do you think that's the case?
That's what happens when you're at the top. When you're the best receiver in the nation, they're going to pick it apart. And I truly believe that he is just talking about playing that position. He's been very consistent with his production in 3 years. He came to a 1-11 football team. He's taken a team to a major bowl game to win. He's been the heartbeat of this team without being the vocal leader and having to scream and yell and stand in front of everybody and speak. And that's just a tribute to who he is and his character as a person. He doesn't have to be, he doesn't want to be the person in the front, but naturally because of his ability, he is. And so he's scrutinized and he's going to be picked apart. And I think that's just the way it is in any sport when you're playing at the top, that everybody from the bottom is going to try to pull it apart. But I think he does a great job of just coming to work every day, and that's when we talk about being a pro's pro. Regardless of all the things that are happening around him, and people want to talk about the possibilities if you went here, if you went there, and even out of high school. So he's just a young man growing up to be a man and just following his own journey. Standing where his feet are and just trying to be positive and push forward all the time. Some of those things, they're warranted, and some of them he brings upon himself. But he's young, and then like any other young kid, you're going to go through those trials and tribulations, and you got to grow up and you got to learn. But his maturity is continuing to ascend, and I think he's doing a great job.
Duane, you've been a part of the Territorial Cup, the big game, Texas A&M at Texas, Red River. What makes the T-Cup stand out in your mind?
I think probably there's some real, this is probably a strong statement, but it's just some real hate, between the universities. It's a personal, is what I found, game between these two universities. I've seen some interesting games over my, what would this be, 17, I think, since I've been here. But even when I used to talk to Jim Young, who was part of some great football games, and he kind of felt the same way that I did. Now he still said the Army-Navy game is still the best rival he's been involved, but he feels the same way that I did about this game too, which I thought was interesting because he was part of the Michigan-Ohio State games too. So I would put this one up against, those Red River shootouts and all those games, the big game, without a doubt, because there's so much passion that's involved in this game with players and, like all great rivalries, the fans.
David.
Bobby, what's your Territorial Cup memory as a player?
My senior year playing in Phoenix, being, growing up in Phoenix and from Phoenix, and obviously being recruited by Arizona State as well. I have an opportunity my senior year to go back there and play and win that game front of the friends and family was great. You know, there's like Coach said, there's just a lot of passion that goes into this game, and it's a, you know, as being a player that's played in it, and then also a coach that's coached in it, you know, it's a player's game. You know, it's really for them. You know, and if you get an opportunity to ever play in it, like, you know that it's something you're going to remember forever. And typically you remember the wins. So that one my senior year was definitely a big win up in Phoenix.
And as a guy who's played in the National Football League, how have you tried to prepare Tetsuroa for that level and what he needs to do to succeed at that level?
Constantly trying to find the weaknesses, you know, within his game, trying to find a way to improve him, find a way for him to improve every week, and understanding that that's what the NFL is about. You know, it is consistently getting better. It is consistently improving. If you're ever, you know, stagnant, then you're probably not going to be in that league for long. So just constantly trying to watch enough tape with him to find out, you know, what we can improve on, giving him, you know, the drills, the conversation, the tape that he needs to show him where we can improve, and then pushing him to do it. A lot of it is just, you know, making sure that he understands that he has to play well every week, you know, and that's pretty much what it is. It's a production-based business, and no matter how good of a nice guy you are or how bad, it is about production. And so we just want to keep him focused on getting better individually, and then in return, it helps the team.
So you were on ASU staff last year. What was that experience like for you, and what do you think just about what they're doing this year?
You know, I'm grateful for my time at ASU, honestly, because gave me my first coaching opportunity. I think anybody that knows me knows that I wanted to come here first. I tried to come here, tried to be on a couple staffs prior. Just wasn't available, wasn't my time. So, you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity that Herm Edwards gave me and those people over there to give me an opportunity to start my career there. Same things apply. You know, it's really a player's rivalry. As coaches, you do the same thing each and every time and try to get your team prepared to play its best game every single week. So, you know, I just kind of let them have that and let the players, you know, kind of guide that and steer that ship. But, you know, I'm you know, good for them. You know, I'm being from Arizona, being a kid who grew up and watched Arizona State play and Arizona both play. I'm happy that both in-state teams are, you know, playing. And, you know, it's always a great game to play against each other. I'll tell you, regardless of the records, regardless of what ASU has an opportunity to play for, and regardless of what we don't have an opportunity to play for, this game is the most important game of the year, and I think everybody would tell you that. And I'm sure they're not taking it lightly, and we sure aren't either. So, you know, we're going to put our best foot forward and try to give our team the best opportunity to win.
For Duane, you talk a lot about stopping the run being priority number one in any game that you go into. Is that especially the case in this game, knowing how ASU plays and just your overall thoughts on the ASU offense?
Yeah, I think it's always your starting point, no matter who you're lining up against. I think ASU has done a great job offensively on utilizing their talent. The quarterback has been a great addition to them. They do a great job of utilizing all their pieces. They have an outstanding wide receiver that they work hard to get the football to, and I got a lot of respect for that running back. You know, I think he runs hard. You can feel the passion on how he runs. So much respect to the coaches there that have given those players a chance to be successful. So it'll be a good challenge for us again this week.
Brian?
Bobby, what made Chris Hunter break out the way he has, especially here in the second half of the season?
Development. I mean, he's a great example of what it looks like to put in the hard work and then given the opportunity to be able to capitalize on that hard work. You know, these things, they take time. You know, you would love for guys to just, you know, jump right in and be ready to play, but the truth is that's not how that works. You know, this is still very much a developmental game. This college football is still about development. So to watch him show up day in, day out, put his best foot forward, work through, you know, injuries and pain and, you know, these type of nicks and bruises and still, you know, wait for his opportunity. You know, you gotta really take your hat off to the kid because that's what it's about. You know, he's I've always felt like he could be the one, and he can, he's developing on the right path. And, we had a plan for him. When I first got here, me and him sat down. I knew Chris very well, recruited him out of high school, actually had him committed to me at Arizona State. So I've known him for a long time. I was very familiar with his ability and where I think he could be. And so to see him be in the position and obviously have an opportunity to coach him, I was very excited from the beginning, and I thought he was going to be able to be a guy that can develop here later in the season. Some of these things take time. I think you got to have a plan for them. You need to be able to sit down and talk them through, when that opportunity is going to come and where you see it. Does it always work that way? Not always, but I think for him it's really, came to fruition like right on time. It's good to see him play at a high level, and he's still so very young and raw. He's had 5 starts, I believe, 4 starts underneath his belt. So, we're just barely touching where he can get to.
Bob, you guys have tried a couple of those quick passes to the edge in the last few games. Some of them have not been blocked well. Some of them have been outnumbered defensively. What do you guys have to do to have more success with those plays to the edge?
I think timing and when they're called a lot of times too, and then a lot of those are, decisions that the quarterback gets opportunity to make. Sometimes the looks can be cloudy. So you try to get the ball out the quarterback's hand quickly to be able to give those guys an opportunity on the perimeter to make guys miss. And, they play too. So sometimes they work. They're not made to be home run hits. They're really made to just be perimeter runs. And if we can pick up 2 to 4 yards on them, it becomes a positive play for it. We're happy with it. If they come out the back end and we can split a couple guys and make it a big hit, great for us. It's just something we still got to work on. It takes time. It's not something you could just put in the offense and think you're going to be really good at it right away. But I think it's something that we can make some good money on.
How happy are you with the overall blocking by the wide receivers?
Oh, that's a tough question. We are growing in that area. I'm gonna keep it like that. Sometimes it goes really well, sometimes it doesn't. It's a work in progress. I'll say this: blocking on the perimeter is just about effort. You got to want to do it. And so the guys that show you that they're getting it done at a high level is because they're just working their butts off to be able to get it done. And so it's never perfect. Football's not. So we just continue to try to work it and give them opportunity.
For Duane, I have a couple technique-related questions for you. The first one is about jump balls. You had the Hail Mary against UCF, and then the 3rd and 25 play against TCU. What would you like to see your defensive backs do differently or better in those situations?
Well, on the one in the, hoping I could go 40 plus years with not ever seen one, but you got to box out. So we don't just turn and everybody run for the ball. There's a landing spot, so it's basketball now. The landing sport, Bobo is the basket, and so now you box out, because there is no PI in that situation. That official from the Seattle-Green Bay game taught us all that, right? So there is none. So you grab, you hold, you just don't let that kid get to the ball. And that's just, we got some young players, and like I said, probably should have burned a timeout and walked them through that, because that's not a play. You practice that situation on Thursdays, and we've been knowing him for years and got a lot of training tape on that. I haven't been in that situation. But now as that guy's approaching, you're just playing basketball. And now you're just boxing out. We don't go after the football like you see a lot of guys go, because that's one of the problems. And now Bobo is the one that becomes our high point guy. The one with Bobo, obviously, that was just disappointing, because that's what they had with our all-out blitz system. They're either going to try to throw the screen, which they tried, or just throw the ball up in the air as you just keep giving ground. And as you saw, Jack played it well, because we're just playing the ball in flight. Bobo was right there, and that's just something he's got to constantly work on. Sure. Because he's been in that situation on some fade balls, finding the football. A little bit of a gift. That's why you see that one kid who's all over these walls, McAllister, at 20 interceptions in 3 years. That's a phenomenal number. But he made those plays, and that's something that just we're really disappointed with, because we should have walked in that locker room 14-13, and both teams were playing actually really well. And so we just can't lose that momentum right before half. That was disappointing.
Then the second one, you had a couple really good shots on the quarterback, and he was able to complete the ball. I think they were both jacked. At least one of them was. So it hit him right in the midsection. As I'm watching that, I'm like, well, maybe he should have, put his arms up. But then you run the risk of maybe hitting the quarterback in the head and getting a foul. So is that what you want to see?
Yeah,
in a situation?
you want to go for the belt buckle, just try to throw a fist at your belt buckle and see what your reaction will be. Just try it. You're going to fall off like he did. The biggest thing, is we just got to understand, he's 2 steps on what the alignment should have been. The ball should have never gotten off, like so many of those other sacks. We're +1. So it's just the little things like Bobby said, as we're growing in this game, alignments when you're playing against a really productive offense, and much credit to that quarterback right there now, because he stood. That's not an easy thing to do, to have a guy running right at you and follow that and finish that throw and anticipate the window, because Tay was right there too. So, we're 2 steps away from what the alignment should have been. So many of those sacks that you saw earlier on, or the throwaways, we were properly
You're
aligned.
saying the blitzer wasn't aligned in the right place?
Correct. He was at the spot, but he was just, you want to crowd the line of scrimmage as much as you can, go through the whole design, but we're +1 in that defense, so it's hard to block everybody. And so it was a great lick. Kendall Bryce, as I shared with you, we knocked the kid out of the game, but the play of the game was the 3rd and 2 where he split the 2 defenders that were running at him. That was impressive to me on the start of the 2-minute drill, where there's a possibility we'll knock him out for you. And that's just a great play by that kid. He's just a really good football player in that system. So much respect to him. They made the plays, where it's a game of opportunities, and you saw we made the opportunities early in the game against Houston, and we missed some of our opportunities in that game. And it's just, when you're lining up against good quarterbacks, good offenses, everything matters.
Last question to Justin.
Question for both. How do you think a win on Saturday could really, keep the good feel vibes for the program going into the offseason and maybe salvage the season a little bit?
Yeah, it would definitely do that. So obviously, given the fact that ASU is playing really well, they beat some really good teams that we've lost to. It gives us an opportunity to come in and play a rival team at home. It really gives us some big momentum going into the offseason. And it's good for the boys, just their morale, because they've really been working hard. It's not a group that doesn't work hard at all. So they're deserving to win. Unfortunately, that's not how football works, right? You still got to show up, and, the best team that plays well that day wins. So, overall, it would be great for the community. It would be great for the players. Not so much worried about the coaches, but the players. Want them to be able to feel good about the work they've been putting in. So, it'll be a fun game. And obviously, beating a ranked team, beating a rival team at home, it's big.
Yeah, I think Bobby said it earlier. This is always the #1 game on your schedule, no matter what your record is. Especially a rivalry like this that is so passionate. So beating your in-state rival, like you said, I've been involved in a couple of these with the Red River and A&M. It's always a game you think about. So it would be a big boost for this university community and this football team, because they're deserving of it. They have stuck together through all the adversity that's been thrown their way, and they've continued to be allowed to coach hard and stay in it. So, it would be great for everybody that's involved in this.
All right, that's our time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.